can't expect to be sitting at the top of the ladder feeling tip top all the time. So it is noticing natural fluctuations, understanding that that is perfectly normal. So we might be feeling anxious or a little bit lower in mood, and thinking about what we can do to lift that. Knowing everything, I sometimes have to force myself as well, because we can get stuck in a rut and just think, ugh. But for me, one of the quickest ways to lift my mood is to go out for a walk, just get outside, fresh air, and if we're lucky, blue skies.
Something I found really useful is medicinal mushrooms. So I have a tea that I drink that is made up of cordyceps and shiitake and lion's mane and birch polypore. And that is really, really good. And I noticed an effect from it almost immediately after I've drunk it. It gives me a gentle uplift, but it's a healing medicinal mushroom with no psychotropic properties.
Welcome to Moving Through Menopause with me, Philippa. We're back again. It's the Menopause Collective. Well, members of the Menopause Collective. Hello to everybody listening. And if you're listening on the recording, then welcome to you too. And today I'm joined by Jackie Were, our hypnotherapist, and Claire Ottewell. She's our oily witch. We love that about you. Thank you, ladies, for coming along and having a chat. You know, that's what we're doing today. We are chatting all of the strategies that we might use, quick tips, things that we can do to lift our spirits in a heartbeat almost. Let's say hello, first of all, to Jackie. Hello, how are you?
Hello, yes, good. Thank you for having me back on. Excited to see what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, well, yes, there is some spontaneity in our conversations, I will say that. And Claire, hello, Claire, smiley as ever.
Hello, guys. Happy to be here again. And just pause and actually sit down with a cup of tea that I might actually get to drink. So,
yes, well, please, everybody joining in, let's take a moment to grab a cuppa and just give ourselves a little bit of time to reflect. And the reason I picked this topic is purely selfish reasons, really. I do find this time of year can be just a little bit challenging for me personally. The darker days, longer than I would like, I'll put it that way. And truthfully, I really have been feeling a bit deflated. So I thought, I bet, you know what? I bet I'm not on my own with this. It's probably not. So let's talk about menopause, you know, because moods can fluctuate with the fluctuating hormonal levels around that time of menopause. And it can definitely have an impact on our neural function, the memory centers and the mood centers. These fluctuating levels affect our serotonin levels, which is a mood-enhancing hormone. So, you know, we are potentially, that is speaking to our brains. And so we might just be finding it a little bit harder than usual if those hormone levels are doing their roller coaster sort of thing. And so menopause definitely made it a challenging time for me. I don't know about anybody else in the room. What do you think?
Well, I think, you know, even whether it's menopause or not, moods fluctuate, don't they? One minute you can be fine, the next minute, you know. So we go up and down a ladder throughout the day in any case, and where we sit. And we can't expect to be sitting at the top of the ladder feeling tip top all the time. So it is noticing for natural fluctuations, understanding that that is perfectly normal, not beating yourself up just because you're not feeling tip-top, because we can't expect to sit at the top of the ladder all the time. But it is at the same time recognising when we have had these little sort of slumps, or we might be feeling anxious or a little bit lower in mood, and thinking about what we can do to lift that. Well, for me, and I even sort of have to, you know, knowing everything, I sometimes have to force myself as well, because we can get stuck in a rut and just think, oh, I can't be bothered. But for me, one of the quickest ways to lift my mood is to go out for a walk, just get outside, fresh air, and if we're lucky, blue skies. So that really lifts my mood when I see a blue sky. So yeah, back out into nature, and just doing a little bit of mindfulness whilst you're on that walk, of noticing what you notice. So imagining trying to see things as if it's the first time you've ever seen them. So at this moment in time, when you go out for a walk, if you can take yourself off into a nice wooded area, you'll see all the snowdrops and perhaps some bluebells, and looking at them as if this is the first time you've actually ever seen them. So rather than even naming them as snowdrops or bluebells, just looking and thinking flower, looking and seeing trees, sky, clouds, using that first order terminology as though we are literally just seeing it for the very first time, and just keeping and pulling the mind back into what we're seeing. So for me, that's a wonderful way of just stilling and calming the mind and allowing the mind to start to feel a little bit open. Because when we go outside and we are looking around naturally in nature, so if we're amongst trees, we're using the eyes bilaterally, and we know that this bilateral movement is really good for the mind. This is how it helps to place down our thoughts and feelings and to help doing things. So yeah, super important. Or if we can go somewhere where we've got quite a broad vista and we can see in panorama, that again is wonderfully therapeutic, because it really does have the ability to open the mind up when we use our eyes in panorama. When we use our eyes in a focused way, and we are like this, and we're like this most of the day, most of us, laptops, work, the mind goes into a place of being in a box. So no, we have to take the eyes panorama and look around to help the mind to get that very same feeling of opening up. So
wow, love that. We talk, don't we, a lot, and you hear it a lot about going into nature and this, that, and the other. But to really put those finer points, fine tune that therapeutic experience, and okay, maybe we don't have to think about that every time we go for a walk, but particularly when we are trying to work to lift our spirits, then having that the guides as you go out and about in nature. I love that, and I can see exactly what you mean about the narrow versus the vista.
yeah,
When we're out in nature as well, we're getting all those aromas, aren't we, Claire? What that like, oh gosh, I shouldn't mention freshly mown grass just yet, but Claire's just about to give us a tour of some of those fabulous aromas that can really lift our spirits in the blink of an eye.
Even when it's been raining, the rain has a beautiful smell. And, yes, we like it when the weather is clement, but when the weather is not clement, still getting outside feels just as good. So I would say, as long as you've got the right clothes, I would say that you would enjoy the smell of the rain or the mist, and noticing that, and noticing the air and the elementals, really. So looking at the earth, noticing the air, noticing water, noticing the sun, calling in all of that to kind of just ground you. But if you can't get out, then sitting at your desk or wherever you are for those couple of minutes and just closing your eyes and focusing on your breath, and imagining possibly taking your shoes off and your socks and just putting them on the earth's surface, uncrossing your legs, having your hands relaxed in your lap, and just breathing and doing perhaps box breath or something like that, which is when you choose a number that means something to you. Inhale it, hold it, exhale it, hold it, inhale it. So you're creating a box with the visions of the last countryside that you went into, or that panoramic view that Jackie helpfully talked about, with opening up the mind and getting perspective, because that's what it does. It's like, wow, there's this whole world out there, and I've just been focused in on my minutiae. And actually, in the scheme of things, do I need to draw myself down, and that endorphin release? But in terms of oils and how you could use them for that really quick, because we have an instant reaction to them on so many different levels. You can get things like a roller ball and put them on your pulse points, literally put a dab on your hands, roll it and do a dry inhalation off your palms, and then rub it up the back of your neck so it gets into the brain stem. And you'll be looking at oils that you personally find uplifting, like bitter orange really does it for you, doesn't it, Jackie?
Yeah.
And bergamot really does it for other people, and
That's nice as well.
so jasmine or rose, or what makes you feel good. For other people, especially men, it's going to be things possibly more of the trees, like cypress or cedarwood or sandalwood or frankincense. It's like finding a way to just breathe those in, possibly when you're sitting there grounded with your mind envisioning you're somewhere else, just for a few minutes. It's just pulling you back into a space where you feel like, I can do this. I've got this.
Oh,
pause.
what you said there is very powerful, actually, because we don't always have time to rush outdoors, do we? And take in nature. But the power of the mind to take us, transport us, outside of the body even, and to inhabit a different kind of a mindset just by creating visualizations. That is, worth remembering, because that can be brief and a tool that we could just tap into in a moment. And actually, although not everybody sees in pictures.
Exactly. So smell.
Yeah, we are all unique, aren't we? And so it's kind of finding what speaks to you. If I do manage to be able to visualize and practice, means that I can do it really quite quickly to transport myself to somewhere other than where I happen to be. But so it's worth trying these things, experimenting. Because you may not know that you can even do it if you don't try, Jackie?
Yeah, well, the power of daydreaming. I'm all for daydreaming, and it's a long lost art because everybody's just too busy and takes those moments of just scrolling mindlessly through the phone. Whereas years ago, you might have just sat and daydreamed out the window to let the mind just sort of wander, but we don't do that now. We stay in focused attention, and that focused attention really heightens anxiety because we just don't ever stop. So even though we might think we're having a break by doing it, we're not. And that really does still fall into that aspect that we stay in foveal vision, which is focused attention. We're still narrowed in our focus. And interestingly, with Claire saying about the breathing, one of the things, studies have shown that our breathing changes when we sit there constantly focused as well. And it starts to very much mirror that of anxious breathing. It is higher, and we also tend to hold our breath, so there's that thing that even when we're working and we're typing away on emails or something like that, we hold our breath while we're doing that, which again it's a little bit anxiety inducing. So the breathing, taking a minute to stop and just do some breathing exercises is really important.
Yeah.
I was going to say as well, there's a frequency. I might have mentioned it on here before. There's two types of frequency, and you can just get them easily on YouTube. One is called binaural beats, and the other one is called solfeggio. Jackie's heard of them. And so if you can't visualize and you don't have access to oils, but you need to find some way of encouraging the very important daydreaming that Jackie talks about, just plugging yourself in for a few minutes. They've got all these different frequencies that offer healing, heart restoration, body repair, all kinds of things. That is another way. Music. Some people love classical music as well. I hear from a lot of kind of more psychic-y, spiritual people, classical music for them is the complete escapism. So turning on the music and just sitting there for a few minutes with your feet on the ground, breathing and just getting carried away just for a few minutes. or even while you're doing a task. I wear these huge, great headphones now that when I'm doing stressful tasks, I put on something like that to just help my mind to just open up.
I know what you're saying about classical music. Well, I have to confess, I was watching back some Star Trek yesterday, the Picard series. Picard, have I said that right? Captain
Hard.
And that the music, oh my gosh, I absolutely was really traveling to space almost with that music that they have. So yeah, find something that really transports you. But for me, movement is so. Obviously we were taking a walk outdoors, weren't we, Jackie? But yoga, there's a lot of evidence now about yoga being able to change and shift the mind states and the movement, as well as the breath, as well as the meditation piece. And I was listening to Dr. Bessel van der Kolk. I wrote his name down because I would never remember it. He wrote the book, The Body Keeps the Score. I'm sure you're familiar with that, Jackie. And he was under no illusions the benefits of yoga. He's talking specifically about trauma research, and so the mood disruptions and all of that things that follow from having been exposed to trauma. There is a good body of evidence around yoga, and the more I practice it for myself, and now of course I teach it as well, the more I'm totally convinced of this. Absolutely. And of course, the acupuncture sort of training that I've had, we can kind of make correlations between the movements, the meridians or the energy pathways in Chinese medicine, and the myofascial connections. And so how we can influence key points with the movements that we make. And there are key acupuncture points that really speak to mood. And so some of them are on the front line of your body, which is called the conception vessel. And so generally things that extend and open the chest. And I guess, if we're talking about shallow breathing, that's something that's stopping us from opening up, isn't it? So anything that opens the front line of the body, extension maneuvers, generally can improve our mood. And you only have to think that when you're a bit low and fed up, you kind of shrink down, don't you? And someone who's buoyant and on top of the world, generally they're kind of, up here and all so excited. So the things work in reverse, which is if we sit and slump all the time, that can actually bring us down emotionally. And if we hold ourselves up, then we're going to feel emotionally more buoyant. And so even just the way in which we hold our bodies as we go about our business during the day could have a bearing and could have an impact. And then, of course, let's not forget, you are what you eat. Aren't you? Just a little bit. I mean, you know what? I think it's because I'm such a finely oiled machine that, just joking, just joking, that I so notice things that I have that just literally mess with my mind. It's phenomenal. So the certain foods that we can consume can do the reverse, which is to nourish the mind with vitamins and such like. So from a nutritional standpoint, it isn't just woo-woo, is it? No. Tell me about things we should, what kinds of things can we be consuming to boost us in the mind department?
Oh gosh, there's so many different things. But in terms of if somebody wants to feel like they're sitting down and having a treat and enjoying it, dark chocolate, it's really good for you. Full of magnesium, full of antioxidants, mood boosting minerals. So yes. Dark chocolate, if you wanting to have
how many solids are we talking, Jackie?
80% and above, I would say, yeah. And it's such a strong and bitter flavour that it's very satisfying to the mind, so you don't generally overeat it. A couple of squares absolutely fine.
Mm.
So yeah, that can feel like something sort of nice. But yeah, in terms of food, anything real food is, it's nourishing, and that's what we need.
Mm.
I can't say the amount of clients I've had that notice the difference so quickly the minute we change the diet and we get all the processed rubbish out of the diet. They come back and they're like, oh my God, I can't believe how different I feel. So diet's a huge thing. Yeah.
It is, Clara.
Yes, it is very big. If I had £1 for every client I'd had to get off caffeine, I would be sitting in a mansion in Bel Air, because um, caffeine in menopause and red wine in menopause, and wine, in fact, in menopause, don't often make happy bedfellows. And there's something about reaching that point where your body just goes, I'm not going to really let you get away with this anymore. And people are like, but I became allergic almost overnight. And it's like, no, that was always there, but now your tolerance levels are decimated. Your body can't cope with anything else. Something I found really useful is medicinal mushrooms. So I have a tea that I drink that is made up of cordyceps and shiitake and lion's mane and birch polypore. And that is really, really good. And I noticed an effect from it almost immediately after I've drunk it. It gives me a gentle uplift. And I think mushrooms are kind of one of those things that are coming back in, because we're recognizing how integral they are to our health and well-being. And they're one of the most powerful things on the planet in terms of getting rid of toxins. So if you can think about it, you want something quick, then a teacup of medicinal mushrooms. You can buy it online all over the place, made up, really, really good. There's obviously lots of other herbs that you can drink, like St. John's wort, which are really, really uplifting. Marigold, German chamomile, gives you the sun inside, which is what you want, that kind of gentle uplift, and is staying away from the caffeine. And people say to me, but I can't do that. I really need my coffee in the morning or my 50 cups of tea, and they can't sleep either. At the end of the day, what is it you like? Is it the fact that you want the bitterness? Is it the fact that you want the heat? Is it the fact you want the milkiness? And then once you drill down your particular, what is it about it? Is it a hug and a mug? Then you can start looking at other alternatives like dandelion root coffee, which I can never pontificate about enough, because that's a brilliant coffee replacement. Dandelions, massively good for the heart, making it wonderful. If you think about a dandelion, it's a dandelion, and it's just like happy, smiling dandelion. So really good for liver boosting, toxins, fat breakdown, all that kind of stuff. So pay attention and then work out what kind of, drinking you're putting in to keep yourself moist and stop yourself being so dry. Because if you become dehydrated, that can seriously bring you down. And if you eat the wrong things, you can easily become dehydrated because your body has to use all your excess water to try and get it out of you. So some kind of awareness around that is useful.
Well, I mean, my mind is very slightly blown by your suggestion to have medicinal mushrooms. That you can see here how speechless I am.
They're legal.
Legal. Well, yeah. So the thing is, there are mushrooms that are less legal.
Psilocybin, yes. You can microdose with those very well. There's lots of people that do it.
There is research ongoing, and that, do they call it psychedelic? Is that the right word?
It's quite a big thing now, isn't it?
Yeah.
But so that's not what we're talking about, is it? We're talking about...
I'm talking about the mushrooms that grow around lion's mane, birch polypore, things like that. They grow in this country.
Yeah.
They're not, some crazy, it's a healing medicinal mushroom with no psychotropic properties.
Oh, okay. So thank you for clearing that up for me. And dandelion, I'm all over that. The brain, what's it made of? It's myelinated. We need fats, don't we, for this brain? Fatty fish is so good for us. Fermented foods, berries. Shall we agree on berries? Yeah, lots of berries. Nuts. Oh, now tryptophan. Yes, definitely nuts. Zinc and selenium. I looked this up earlier so that I would know this. We really do need to nourish our bodies in the broadest sense with the thoughts that we think, the movements that we make, the nourishment that we consume get imaginative and explore new things, because that's the other thing, isn't it? Getting stuck in a rut. And the winter time, you kind of feel a bit sort of samey through the winter. And you might have noticed that I went and did some aerial yoga last week. Do you know what? Something new. I've never done it before. And absolutely had a whale of a time, and totally felt uplifted afterwards. So if there's something you've been thinking about trying, anything you've been thinking about trying, girls.
I looked at a class for that just the other week, and I thought, oh, I'm going to give that a go. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I can heartily recommend it.
Yeah, it looked really fun.
I'll just keep drinking mushroom tea and I'll be fine.
You'll be fine. Drink your mushroom tea. It's all good. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining me today. And thank you to you out there in the ether listening. If there's anything we can ever do to help, you know where to find us. The Moving Through Menopause Facebook group. We're there. Come and join us and have some fun with us. Take care, and bye for now.